So this is all part of a piece here. You have them abusing our diplomatic personnel, it looks like, as confirmed by Judicial Watch. You have the Chinese working with Fauci's people to keep secrets away from the American people. And continued silence from the administration about China's refusal to cooperate in figuring out what went on there. We also have new documents about Chinese communist abuse of our diplomats that I think you'll find quite shocking. And I'll start off with that. These are documents concerning so-called anal swab COVID testing of our diplomatic personnel in China. It was reported in late February, early March that U.S. diplomatic personnel were being asked to and actually being tested using anal swabs for COVID. And it caused a lot of outrage, as you might expect. And so what Judicial Watch did was we asked for documents. We didn't get any because the Biden State Department just doesn't think FOIA doesn't apply to it. I don't know. This is the typical deep state response to records requests, essentially to ignore the law. So we sued. We sued for all records about U.S. diplomatic personnel in or seeking to enter China being subjected to anal swab tests for the COVID-19 virus, including all complaints and communications regarding such testing. This request does not seek any personal identifying information of U.S. diplomatic personnel that may have been subjected to such testing. So this is a really simple request. I mean, how many complaints could they have gotten? How much back and forth could there have been about this material? Well, they finally gave us some records, 4 records, essentially text messages and email messages, confirming that there were concerns by, or at least in the U.S. Embassy in Beijing about what was going on. There was an officer in the U.S. Embassy who sent around an email to, it sounds like people or diplomats or personnel, U.S. personnel, who are under quarantine in China. I think China, the way I understood it is, if you came into China and you were a U.S. diplomat, you had to quarantine in a hotel for a period of time. I think it was 14 days. So some of these folks, it looks like, got this email saying, sorry for the strange questions. And this is January 25th, so this began early on. Sorry for the strange questions, but I was directed by embassy management to survey our people and ensure we are not being asked to participate in the more invasive testing procedures. There's no good way to ask this, but has any health authority asked you or your spouse to conduct an anal swab test? The embassy obviously does not authorize or permit this type of testing on diplomats, but others have been asked, so I need to verify everyone's experience. The testers may also ask to do an environmental test where they enter the residence and swab drinking glasses, furniture, etc. This is also not permitted. For the record, our agreement is for nasal and/or throat swabs only. If you're asked to undergo either of the above or any other that seems inappropriate, please advise and contact us immediately. We will escalate to China's government agencies and go from there. So that's what is happening or was happening in China, that they had enough information. People were being asked to undergo this invasive testing procedure. And at least the folks that they sent this letter to, they wrote back and said, no, this hasn't happened to us. But other texts suggest that it did happen. Someone says the below message text message came from blank. They knocked out the name. This is not good. It's clear that someone had been asked at least that there was for this anal swab testing. And I guess the concern is what you might think. Is this just an opportunity or an excuse for China to mess with our diplomatic personnel by shaming them or embarrassing them? As someone said, that is indeed a very strange test, and the first time we've heard it as well. And one person says, if you send me back to the United States, we should go back to the United States rather than go through this type of testing. So that was what was happening. These are the documents that Judicial Watch had come up with. And I'm tired of having to fight for basic information such as this. And also it's disturbing that the Biden administration didn't seem to do anything about this publicly. It only came out there because you had some news media reports about this. And were the Chinese held accountable for it? Not that I could tell. I mean, they complained, it sounds like to me, or may have escalated it. But why is it that our diplomats were harassed in this way with no pushback? Now, if this were the only issue, it'd probably be small potatoes in the greater scheme of things. But when you recognize at the same time, China was clamping down on any information with respect to the origins of COVID, playing games with the United States and international investigators in terms of cooperation about how COVID emerged. They were targeting their own people to make sure they wouldn't talk. So this is a big issue. Now, are you aware of China being punished to any significant degree or being pressured by at least this administration on its cooperation into the origins of COVID? In my view, unless you know how COVID emerged, or there is, it seems to me there needs to be urgency in figuring out how COVID emerged in order to, A, understand what the threat is, and B, make sure, if we can make sure, it doesn't happen again. Because as Judicial Watch has uncovered and taken a lead in uncovering, China was engaged in gain-of-function research thanks to the good offices, and I say that sarcastically, of people like Anthony Fauci and other government agencies who funded it. You had Fauci's agency funding it. You had NIH funding gain-of-function research in China. And they were initially very nervous that that gain-of-function research resulted in the emergence of COVID. It's clear. They were telling us, oh, no, it was, don't worry about it. It was all likely to be a naturally occurring virus. But when you look at the emails that Judicial Watch uncovered, they were very nervous about it. So they were pretending there was no there, but they were desperate to make sure there was no there, and confirmed internally that they were doing gain-of-function research, the very type of research that could have resulted if it wasn't naturally occurring in the development of COVID. So we had the Biden administration and frankly too much of the media, and it happened during the Trump administration. You see this even Fauci during the Trump administration. Judicial Watch uncovered documents showing that China, WHO, the World Health Organization, which in many ways was a tool of China, went out of its way to praise China in an initial press release about cooperation related to COVID, which obviously is a joke given what I told you about its failure to cooperate. And Fauci personally signed off on a press release that specifically went out of its way to praise China. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but the email traffic was, note we're specifically praising China. And Fauci's like, okay with me. Other documents show that one of our investigators, I think it was one of Fauci's top deputies, was going over to China, and they updated the confidentiality agreement to include terms dictated by China. So we have China dictating confidentiality and basically requiring our government officials to keep secrets from us. Who's running the show, the Chinese government or the United States government when it comes to COVID? Here in the United States. That's what those documents raised. So, and of course, we had the suppression by big tech of concerns about China's potential role in creating the COVID virus. Now, is it for sure that COVID was the result of a lab leak? No. But the idea that you couldn't even raise questions about it without being censored, it was outrageous that it was being done, but it highlights specifically how that type of censorship, it's bad enough because we've uncovered that censorship in the United States was done at the behest of government officials here in the United States and to benefit them. But then we have big tech censoring us to benefit the Chinese, it looks like. So this is all part of a piece here. You have them abusing our diplomatic personnel, it looks like, as confirmed by Judicial Watch. You have the Chinese working with Fauci's people to keep secrets away from the American people. We have, quote, private entities, big tech censoring critique, not even critiques, just factual analyses, scientific analyses of the origins of COVID in a way that protected China. And continued silence from the administration about China's refusal to cooperate in figuring out what went on there. Joe Biden was just asked about it the other day. Why, what's going on with China and its cooperation with the COVID, with the COVID origin investigations. And he kind of smiled and laughed and walked away. So that's where we stand on that. And this is why Judicial Watch's litigation is so important, because we're actually doing independent investigations of what at least the U.S. government knew about what China was up to and what was our involvement there. Because the dirty little secret, I guess it's not a secret anymore thanks to groups like Judicial Watch, is that the U.S. government was a partner in China with respect to this type of biologic research that could have led to COVID and who knows what else. Because my view is it isn't so much COVID being the problem, it's the idea that they get involved in this dangerous gain of function research, which is just inherently dangerous and risky, while pretending not to be engaged in gain of function research. So this is all serious. We've got this Omicron virus out, the variation of it. I mean, who knows how that emerged? Did it emerge as a variant of a man-made virus? I don't know. So, we have this virus come out, and it's in my view, it's used as a pretext to engage in oppression of U.S. citizens and people around the world. And gosh darn it, we're going to figure out how it all came about as best we are able to here at Judicial Watch. So this is just one element of it. And I encourage you to read up on all the materials we've been able to uncover on this, because no one else is talking about it. No one else is reporting it the way your independent Judicial Watch is.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.